I'm excited again to be sharing with you in answer to your questions. It's been fabulous these last number of weeks to be working with you through questions that you're asking, and all the different groups have a chance to throw in their questions, and some of the women's groups, or the partner groups, have been asking questions as well. So we're starting today with some questions that have come from some of your spouses through the partner recovery groups, and then we have 13 questions today, and I'm really honored that you are so like we were someplace in the range of 60 questions came in, and it's just so awesome. The only stupid question asked is the one you don't ask, so that you've been pretty aggressive in just saying, "Hey, Currie, can you answer this?" And friends, I don't think I have all the answers. I likely have some good experience, some good answers, but there's always more to be found around in these areas. But what I like to say is, my answers are good steps in the right direction. It may not be comprehensive everything. It might not answer every nuance, but they're good steps in the right direction as I answer these questions. And so hopefully that can be an encouragement for you in this particular session. So regroup questions number 4. Should a partner be aware of the addict's recovery program? What type of recovery work is being done? If there is accountability partner, what the recovery work entails, and how frequently? Well, to all of those questions, the answer is unequivocally yes. We have a recovery game plan that we believe all of our life coaches, recovery coaches, and counselors should work a person through. And what are the activities that they're going to work on? And so, yeah, they should. Accountability is an automatic. That every addict needs to be accountable daily with regard to all clear to somebody. And so accountability is assumed. Recovery work is assumed. Having a recovery game plan is assumed. And even what the recovery work entails and how frequently. Well, what it entails should be understood when when the man struggling with the addiction shares what his plan is going to be. So, the spouse will know what it entails, and, even the expectations of what that means, and, as far as frequency and work and all. And for that reason, beyond initially seeing what the recovery game plan is, we have weekly recovery update. Weekly recovery update. And it's designed to be about a 15-minute meeting where the person struggling with porn or sexual addiction will line up a time weekly with their spouse where they report in, and they basically follow the guide sheet that's there. You can't duck it. It just basically, you finish the sentence. There's whatever 10 statements or that idea. And so in answer to this question, should a partner be aware of the addicts recovery program? Yes, 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 and yes. And maybe it's aware. The accountability is all the detailed accountability is done by the accountability partner, or we've called the wingman, or whatever. So yeah, so hopefully that gets you started in a good direction. Number 2, do all addicts need a relapse plan and a recovery plan? And should the partner know what they are? Well, yes. We have part of the recovery plan is uh, consequences if you relapse. And so, that would be aware for the spouse because it's part of the core plan. Um, and with regard to relapse, the commitment that we are calling all people struggling with porn or sexual addiction to make is that if they have a setback, they have to tell their spouse and their accountability partner within 24 hours. And so Um, and then, we do have, I'm sure you're surprised, we have a a relapse report that the man will go through with his accountability partner and the counselor he's working with so that we can look at any tendencies that relapse report. First of all, he's got to share with his spouse that he has relapsed, but the recovery report doesn't go to the spouse. It goes to the accountability partner and the counselor to try to sort out what's going on. We're asking, yes, to keep the spouse informed, but not that she is the accountability partner. That doesn't work good. She's got to be supportive as best she can and let him work it out. We like to say that men make men, and that she can't be the cop, but she does deserve to know. And so, what he's going to do different if he relapses, that would be fair to, like if he had a relapse, and so he's met with his accountability partner and his pastor, or his counselor, and he's saying, okay, listen, you know that I fell last week, whatever, looking at porn, and I got access to it through whatever. And so this is the plan of what I'm going to do to prevent from that happening again. And so yeah, I think that's good. Number three, how important is empathy with an addict towards the betrayed partner? Well, uh, incredibly important. The problem is an addict is really, really, really weak at empathy because the whole addiction is driven by selfishness and me first and my needs. And it's been going on for a long time. And allowing that to somehow coexist with being married to somebody, is about selfishness. It's not about thinking the other person. And so there is an entire talk on, empathy in the series here that you're listening to this morning, and that would be whoever asked this question. It would be good for you to listen to that with your spouse and talk about empathy. But yeah, I mean, m- people who struggle with addiction of any kind are usually very self-centered, and the opposite of self-centeredness is empathy, where I'm not going to do this because this hurts other people. I'm not going to do this because this is going to hurt her. I'm not going to do this because this shows that I'm putting myself and my needs ahead. And so empathy is really important to develop, and it takes a season to develop for the addict because they've been operating for many years of just putting themselves first and with a bit of disregard to the people in their world. And so, yeah, being on a journey in empathy is a good thing for every addict. Number four, can a marriage heal if there's not total honesty and transparency in all aspects of life, especially surrounding the truth about acting out that occurred in betrayal and relapses? Well, honesty isn't just the best policy, honesty is the only policy. Um, I have a document called Coming Clean. It leaves no room for not being open. Your spouse needs to know what they're forgiving you for. And if you tell only half of the story and more comes out later, it's like ripping the stitches out after a surgery and everything bleeding all over. That particular practice is called progressive disclosure, where we say that's everything, and then we a little more, and then well, that's everything. Well, then more comes out, and that is just traumatizing for the spouse. And so, total honesty and transparency is very important in all aspects because it's very interesting. Because there was so much lying about the addiction, the person lies about what they did on the way home from work. They stopped and got gas, yes, but they also stopped at Walmart to pick up something, and later she says, you said you stopped at the gas station only, and I saw a receipt from Walmart. Why didn't you tell me? And he go, oh golly, I forgot. I mean, I was only in a Walmart for 5 minutes to get a scraper from my car. I didn't think about that. But for her, it's traumatizing because he's lied about something incidental, and it just feels like here we go again. And so, yeah, not lying about anything. Matter of fact, most people who struggle with addiction also struggle with lying as well. And they're addicted to lying because lying covers their story, lying covers their addiction, lying covers their inappropriate behaviors. And so, yeah, total honesty and transparency is needed. And if there's going to be a disclosure of, you know, things with spouse, likely have a counselor to walk through it because, you know, I'll use the word innocuous details. We don't want to include details like, for instance, yes, I've struggled with porn, once or twice a week for the last 3 years. Let's just say that. Okay. But it doesn't do anybody any good to say, well, what kind of porn are you looking at, or what kind of women were attractive to you? Like that doesn't go anywhere good. Because let's just say you say, oh, it was redheads. Well, you know what? Every flippin' redhead in the world now is a trigger for your wife. And so we got to be careful on including innocuous details, but sometimes the addict is not good at determining what's innocuous detail and what really should be shared. And that's why having a counselor who's helped others through disclosure is wise. So yeah, honesty and transparency in all aspects is a good thing. And number five, what is the biggest hindrance to healing a marriage after betrayal? Well, foundationally, it has to be with the addict's genuine work and effort. Remember, I said intentionality and consistency. So there has to be clear effort because without that, there's not a chance the marriage can heal because he is unhealthy and she can't grow close to somebody who's consistently relapsing and unhealthy. And there's a journey of patience she has to have while he's trying to work things out. Because if he's been addicted since he was, 12 or something, it's not just like a switch in the wall where you just turn it off and that's it. It's a hard thing to work through. So I think the biggest initial hindrance is the addicted partner in just taking seriously their need to work through issues and become a person of integrity and really make an effort intentionally, consistently at doing the work of recovery. That's the foundation upon which the marriage can be rebuilt. Then, as that is starting to solidify and there's trust being rebuilt, then there's steps towards reconnecting as friends and dates and talks, because early she doesn't even want to talk to you because she doesn't know what to believe. And even though you're sincere and earnest, she goes, whatever, you've lied to me so much, I don't know. So she's going to take a while to work through some of her hurts and triggers before you're able to really um, reconnect in your marriage. And so yeah, so the biggest hindrance in healing a marriage after betrayal initially is the addict's level of work and commitment and honesty about the work and consistency, because that is the platform upon which there will ever be a marital recovery. Number six, and the last question from partners. Why will a partner sometimes participate in sexual acts the addict coerces them into, even to the point of encouraging it because the addict seems to desire them more when they do, and life seems easier for a time, even though it leaves them deeply hurting and so ashamed afterwards? Well, Forget the addict thing. Variation in sexuality in marriage can't be a derivative of a sexual history, a sexual, porn past. And that's hard to kind of get through, because if this the addict has been addicted for 10, 15 years, they've such a repertoire of things that they've seen, they want to bring that into the bedroom. And it's hard for the partner to kind of believe it's about them and loving them than it is about an extension of the addiction. So really wise to go slow on variation, and always with the genuine willingness of the partner. And there are times, without a doubt, that the push towards variation is a product of the sexual addiction. But when the relationship has become strong and there's trust between you and friendship, discussing variation and coming to agreement on different things related to variation. It can't be coercion. It can't be pressure, whether or not there's a sexual addiction past or not. There has to be mutuality. There's really four things that guide variation in marriage. Let me just educate you all by giving you those. First of all, is it biblically prohibited? If the Bible says you can't do that, then you can't go there. Like to have a second person join you and your wife in the bed would be inappropriate, because you're being unfaithful because there's another person there. So like a threesome is out, right? And on and on. There's the Bible says a lot about sex with minors, sex with opposite sex, sex with animals. The Bible says a lot of things about sexuality, lusting after other people, committing adultery or porneia of the heart. That's where we got to stop ogling people and looking at porn. And so the Bible does say a lot. So number one, is it biblically prohibited? Number two, is it physically harmful? We have to be really wise that what we're suggesting on doing isn't going to hurt somebody or physically harm them in any way. Number three, is it emotionally somehow damaging? So they're feeling demeaned, they're feeling put down, they're feeling controlled, they're feeling almost violated by what the one is wanting. And so if it's emotionally damaging, inappropriate. So beyond those three, the last one is it's mutually agreed upon, genuinely mutually agreed upon. And after those things, if there's an agreement, then you can go ahead with different types of variation. And so that would be a good way to balance it out. And so uh, yeah, I mean, the question had said that, if we go ahead with this variation, it feels like the addicted partner loves them more for a while, but they feel really hurting and ashamed of what they did afterwards. So that wasn't mutual agreement. That was coercion. And that addict might feel closer because it was more of a reflective of his addiction past that she agreed to. And that's off the plate. We can't have someone feeling ashamed and hurting afterwards. That's just the opposite. Remember, intimacy is designed to bring closeness and connection, not to use each other and leave the other one hurting. Number seven, what's the most important thing a partner can do to help the addict heal? Well, here's some of the things that come to my mind. First of all, be patient. What has been going on for 10, 15 years of addiction, off and on, isn't going to just snap fingers and be done. There are those that once they come forward with this addiction, they never go back again. That would likely be maybe one out of three would have that kind of experience. Then there's those that have intermittent setbacks and relapses, but they're getting farther and farther between. We should see that as a victory, not as a failure, because if the gaps are getting farther and farther, and pretty soon he hasn't relapsed now for over a year or whatever, well, okay, we're going in the right direction. Then there's those that the patience is needed, but if the person is, relapsing every 2 to 3 weeks, we got to get a little more serious in the recovery journey. So, the most important thing a partner can do is be patient and aware. Number two, be supportive and encouraging and pray. Also, share your expectations and boundaries and your limits clearly. Um, it's really important for the partners to realize that though it feels like it's all about them and hurting them, the addiction is not about them because they were long addicted before they even met you in most cases. So it's not about you. It wouldn't matter who the addict married. That spouse would have to work through this. And just a reminder for those spouses who are listening to this call, or even husbands whose wives are maybe going to listen to this call with you. Um, we have a wonderful program called Purge, which is a psychoeducational seminar for partners to understand the addiction and even what their role is in their husband's recovery. So we answer that question. And there's a whole host of wonderful partner recovery groups that you can check our website, doingfamilyright.com, and see what's available there. So the most important thing is patience, move in the direction of forgiveness. Um, uh, Maybe work hard not to be the cop, but to know that there's somebody in the world that he is accountable to, that you trust, that you grow in understanding the nature of addiction, and that if he got hooked on this at 11, that it was a very, very susceptible time in his life. And so, just understanding addiction and, being supportive and trying to remember it's not about you, even though it hurts you like crazy. So, yeah, there's some thoughts. Number eight, what does it feel like to lead a life of honor? Can you share stories of leading your family, your ministry, and given responsibility because you've proved your faithfulness and competency? Explain how honor feels. Well, I'm frankly honored just to be asked the question because there's an implication here. And I guess some of the things that have guided me is I want to be able to look in the mirror at night and face Jesus, that today I honored him as best I could. And where I've fallen short, I take it to him and try to, clean up my mess as soon as I can. Um, and so, it's really living one day at a time, and I pray with my accountability partner, every Wednesday morning. One of the last things you'll hear me pray is, I pray, Lord, that the things I say and do today would honor you. One day at a time, just today, the things I say and do, I want them to honor you. And so, walking with integrity is a journey, and just being transparent, being accountable. I mean, we challenge you all to be accountable to somebody. Well, I'm in my 36th year in Abbotsford with another 8 years in Saskatchewan, so puts me at about 44 years being accountable every week for an hour and a half. So when I challenge you to get an accountability partner and spend at least a half an hour, at least every 2 weeks, do you understand? That's accountability light. So I will never the rest of my life not be accountable to another man every week. If my friend passes away or moves away or whatever, we still have been meeting online because he has a place down in Mexico. But the yeah, without a doubt, my accountability partner has continued to, I'm going to use the word push me in my desire to be the best person I can be, the best Christian I can be, the best husband I can be, the best dad I can be, and in my profession, the best counselor speaker that I can be. And yeah, I mean, and I have a really good set of reasons why I want to live to honor the Lord. Obviously, one is uh, I recognize that I'm saved by grace, not by my works, but my life is a thank you to Jesus for all he's done for me. I want to live a life of gratitude and live a life of obedience as a sign that I really am grateful for what he's done for me. So, yeah, so that's critical. The other reasons are I don't want to have to look my wife in the face. And when my mom and dad were still alive, I would just feel horrendously embarrassed and hurt that I would have to admit to my dad and my mom that I cheated on Donna Land or whatever. I want my kids to respect me because then I can speak into their life. And remember, it's not about perfection; it's about direction. And so, yeah, uh, I'm in the Word. I'm praying. I have a gentleman that prays for me every morning, and I pray for him every morning. Every morning, and it's not even my accountability partner. We text each other. I just prayed for you. I already did that this morning. This gentleman in Calgary, and we've known each other since 1977. And we pray every morning for each other. It's not a big long prayer, but I know the requests he has, and he knows the requests I have, and we have people, praying for us. So we're open. There's no secrets. I have a long list of boundaries in my life, and I have a whole talk on that. That I, for the first time, did it this year. I've never all these years opened up about my personal boundaries, but I did this year, and I hope that was helpful. I would should scare the living daylights out of you because I run with 50 plus boundaries. I think it's 54 or something. And so when you first of all you honor me because you give the implication that I live a life of honor. Thank you for saying that. But remember when I used the word intentionality and consistency? I'm very intentional and I'm very consistent. And over the period of the many years of my life, that's what changes me. Jesus changes me because I'm in relationship with him daily. And I got other people who are kicking my butt in the right direction. And so, yeah. So I think, and you said explain how honor feels. The integrity psalm is Psalm 15, and it asks the question. I'm going to quote it to you. Lord, who may dwell in your sanctuary? Who may live on your holy hill? He whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from his heart, who has no slander in his tongue, who does his neighbor no wrong and casts no slur on his fellow man, who despises those who are evil but honors those who love the Lord. Uh, it goes on to say, and those who do these things will never be shaken. And so the integrity psalm says, walk in a way of uprightness in your lips and your actions. And then because of his grace, like I said, you can look Jesus in the face every day and say, Jesus, show me the things today that I was out of line. And he'll show me where I was a little proud on something or, I was impatient. That's likely the worst one. I can be impatient with those closest to me, including maybe most primarily just impatient with my dear wife, the poor lady married to me. But yeah, honor feels a sense of I'm not afraid to be in Jesus' presence because he knows me already. I've already confessed my shortcomings. And yeah, all right. Thanks for the question. Number 9, help us understand the pain of addiction on families that you see in your office. To feel the weight of where our decisions could lead us if we don't change. Could you scare us straight? Um, Talked to a gentleman last night who, because of a recent crossing of boundaries with his spouse, they're separating for 3 months, and he's broken by his mistake. But that's the hard call of what happens. You do need to change. You shouldn't expect your spouse to be okay with it. And I mean, there are people on this call, there are people listening in the other groups who've already lost their spouse, they're divorced. There are those that have been through a serious time of separation where they lived apart for a while, while their spouse was trying to catch air and begin to heal from the hurt that the addiction caused. The sad thing is, many times, it's going to hurt the kids involved because of separation, or the mom and dad are not getting along, and they grow up in a home where there's, frustration and hurt between mom and dad, and they see it and they feel it. And, I mean, the desire that you need to develop with a solid set of reasons why you don't want to let the addiction beat you up anymore, that you want to, by God's grace, move in the direction of healing, is because the devastation, one, ongoing addiction does to the marriage and in some ways to the family. And secondly, the destruction of your own life and heart, as you don't feel close to the Lord. Now, listen, remember, it is God's grace. No one's perfect. But if we continue to just partner with the addiction and don't take a stand and don't say, God, help me, I don't want to go here, you're allowing the addiction to run roughshod over your life, and it'll destroy your marriage, your family, and yeah, you'll be having Christmases apart. You'll be, your spouse will likely get married to somebody else, and it'll never be the best for you ever. And even if you lose your marriage, it's still important to deal with the addiction, because you want to walk at peace with God, and you want to be a man of integrity for your kids down the road, even though you blew up the marriage because of your addiction. And down the road, if you're going to get married to somebody else, you don't want to carry that problem in with the next one. And so, yeah, I sadly I do see the unbelievably horrific, damaging effect that addiction has on marriages virtually every week. And it's not even the relational, spatial damages where you're separated. The emotional pain that is put on the life of the spouse of the addict is horrendous. It's just so unfair. These women that I'm talking to, I imagine them as my daughter, and I just feel so hurt for them. They shouldn't have to carry the weight of your unfaithfulness. And so, yeah, uh, I don't know if I can scare you straight, but I can be realistic about what's going to happen if you don't deal with your addiction. You'll likely lose it all. Number 10 out of 13, how can I effectively interact and engage with my coworkers and people in the community in a godly way without compromise? When the lifestyle of my town is one of immaturity, oversharing, sexual inappropriacy. Um, it wears me down and makes me feel like a lighthouse standing amongst troubled waters. Well, when you take a stand to live a life of purity in a culture that almost celebrates unfaithfulness, you are going to be like a lighthouse on a hill. Matter of fact, in some ways, you might be a target for being mocked and whatever. Uh, but we are in this world, but we don't have to be of this world. And you can effectively interact and engage. And if there's a group of guys that you're with that are starting to talk smack and dirty stuff, you can just excuse yourself. I got to go make a phone call, come back later. If they're still talking garbage, hey, I got to run. You don't have to stick around it. You can make decisions, right? A matter of fact, if a guy keeps sending you inappropriate messages, or pictures or whatever, you can very easily say, hey, listen, I'm on a journey here of just cleaning up my life a little bit, and actually quite a bit. And my wife and I have agreed that I don't want to have this kind of material on my phone. So please take me off the list. Don't send me that anymore. Well, he'll mock me. Yeah, he might. But I would rather have some guy in your world mock you and you just suck up your pride and take it than your wife leave you because you won't get over your immature need to allow stupid stuff in your life. Ephesians chapter 5:3 says, let there not even be a hint of sexual immorality or impurity, not even a hint. And so this you can't live a life of compromise. And how can I effectively interact and engage without compromise? By saying no, by walking away, by asking a guy not to send you stuff, by, if hanging out with the guys after a hockey game is going to be colorful because they're going to be talking smack and dirty and everything, then you excuse yourself and you don't stay afterwards. Oh, they'll wonder what the hell's wrong with me and all this stuff. You know what? So what? You've got to make choices. You've got to make choices. And you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you want to really make sure that that group of people are people that are going to lift you up and call you to greatness. And so your whole community is immature, oversharing, sexually inappropriate. Then you've got to put some walls up and some barriers because you say it weighs you down. Well, that means you shouldn't stick around as much, right? And you are to be a lighthouse. Jesus said in Matthew 5, you're like a city on a hill. Let your light so shine before men that they will see your good life and come to glorify the Father in heaven. But if you're not strong enough to shine in those situations until you are strong enough to be a lighthouse on the hill, you got to get your butt out of those situations. And I say that honestly with compassion because we're so used to just letting people's whims and wants and our need for friendship to override what we tolerate. Desire to be a godly person and put yourself in circles where there are really good people who are influencing you in a good way. Number 11, are a couple who both struggle with sexual addiction able to be each other's accountability partner? Could they do recovery well in a secluded group with only one other couple or family member where one of them is struggling as well? Well, pretty specific. First of all, if your spouse struggles with addiction of some sort as well, you're both going to share with each other what your recovery game plan is. I would say it's really important for him to have someone outside the marriage that he's accountable to, for her to have someone outside the marriage that she's accountable to. That would be wisdom to me. And then, we have the weekly recovery update that the partner is supposed to give the other person. So if you're both struggling with addiction, then we give each other the recovery update of what we're working on. But I really have never seen it go well where the spouse is the accountability partner. And so I wouldn't go there. Get someone outside the marriage that can call you on it. And not your spouse deserves to know if there's relapses and things, deserves to know what you're doing, working on stuff, but not to be each other's accountability partner. And this idea of could they do recovery well in a secluded group with only another couple, where one of them is struggling as well. The idea of secluded group has got me a little bit confused. You can be living pretty well anywhere in the world and be a part of this recovery call or recovery call similar. You don't have to be in a secluded group. And remember that, in the implication, 3 of the 4 people involved here are struggling. Well, maybe you should be in groups where there's people that are working in consistent and intentional about recovery, not just with a group of people that are all kind of struggling and kind of, well, we all struggle and that's too bad, but it is what it is. I think you need to be accountable outside your marriage. I think you need to be not secluded, but finding ways to connect with others. Because remember, the opposite of addiction is connection. And yeah, so I think there's my comments on that one. I've heard the statement, I received prayer and I got rid of my desire to look at porn. Would someone like this still need to go through a recovery program? Well, first of all, that kind of like Shazam, God looked after it all in one prayer, it's quite rare. I'm happy, but I would be in a group because even though you haven't looked at porn since that prayer, you still got all kinds of bad habits and soul wounds and what caused that and a lot of lessons to learn. about facing temptation well, and how to grow in your faith, and how to, yeah, I mean, so obviously, you know what I think about accountability. I mean, I'm not looking at porn, and I haven't, ever looked on porn online in my life. Uh, have I seen porn back in the magazine day? Yeah, I think I talk about three different times I saw porn in magazines, but it never became an addiction because I didn't have access to as much, and I thank God for protecting me. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just, my story's different. I got other sins, guys. I'm critical, judgmental, and patient. I need Jesus bad. I think I help people with addiction because I'm direct. I'm open. I go to hard places, but this idea that I don't need to go through a recovery program. I'm in accountability for, well, like I said, 44 years, and I'm not going to quit. So this person who has received prayer and is already healed, do some work. It'll be easy now. Do some work. Be accountable. Keep being accountable to become the man God wants you to be. And if you are really one of those that receive prayer and boom, the porn addiction is gone, just make sure that you're following the all clear document. That, well, I'm not looking at porn, but I'm watching questionable movies. I'm not looking at porn, but I'm scoping the waitress. I'm not looking at porn, but I'm looking on my phone at all kinds of questionable things. No, it's not porn, but girls in bikinis, or tight outfits, or revealing outfits is part of your regular diet. Well, don't be lying to yourself. So just have someone in your world to be accountable to, and talk openly about all these things, and make sure you're saying, Jesus, show me the things in my life that are wrong, that I might be a man of purity, and he will bring conviction to your life. So yes, I'm happy for you having this prayer experience where you have no desire to look at porn, but I would still do the recovery work. So even though there's desires in here, when the temptation comes, you can resist the temptation. 13, and finally, why do some people minimize the partner betrayal trauma from porn compared to the partner betrayal trauma from acting outside the marriage? Well, I describe it like this. When you have been unfaithful looking at porn, when you've been unfaithful, and your spouse gets hit hard by that cheating, by looking at porn and masturbating, it's like they're on a freeway and they get hit by a Mack truck. They are just blown up. So understand that that is completely destructive. Now, you might survive, but when you act outside the marriage, it takes the addiction further. And the trauma is like the second, third, and fourth Mack truck that hits the same person on the freeway. It virtually kills them. And so there should be no minimization of the trauma caused to your spouse, whatever level of porn it is. Well, it's not that big a deal. That's not yours to call. Obviously, the addict's going to downplay the level of trauma that they think it's bringing, that it shouldn't be that big a deal. Oh, golly. That's all selfishness, and that's addict talk. That's emotional adolescence. That's not a man or a partner that's really trying to come clean. So minimizing any betrayal is foolish. Is it more egregious and harder for the partner to work through when the addiction has caused them to act outside the marriage? You bet it is. It takes it up another whole layer. And so the level of hurt is bigger. The level of betrayal is bigger. The level of unfaithfulness is bigger. Now, looking at porn constantly is unfaithful, unfaithful, unfaithful. Period. It is breaking the covenant of marriage. Period. And so you're online and you're doing this, you're unfaithful. You need to come clean and deal with it. But when your addiction takes you to be involved in someone else, be it a coworker, be it a prostitute, whatever, You are you're causing a deeper level of hurt. And yeah, so is acting outside the marriage worse than looking at porn alone? Yes, it is. Is work looking at porn alone not a problem? No, it's a huge problem. Unfaithfulness is the problem. And so my prayer is that, first of all, you would put up severe boundaries so that you wouldn't act outside the marriage, that you become fully accountable on all your activities, your whereabouts, your associates, on and offline, so that you would be, first of all, while you're working on rebuilding integrity and trust, that you wouldn't have occasion to be in questionable situations. So be intentional, be consistent, be accountable, and God will help you go in the right direction. Remember, it's a God of grace who wants you to be free. It's a God of grace who forgives you, and he doesn't hold your sins against you, but then choose to live a life of gratitude, thanking him for what he's done, giving you a second chance. And I mean, Romans chapter 6 says, shall we continue in sin, acting out so that God's grace can abound? God forbid, it says. So it's not about, well, God forgives me. It's okay if I act out. Yeah, no, that's not living in gratitude. That's being presumptuous with God's grace. I think you're in danger. So, yeah, may the Lord continue to guide you in your recovery journey. Your questions have been amazing. I hope that was helpful today. God bless you.